little technical difficulty. For those of you who haven't attended the previous four, I'm Shari. I went to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where I specialized in the human and computer interaction with a specialty in search interfaces. And these are the areas where I am members, and I still do academic types of work. We're going to talk about link development and social media optimization, and here's our agenda. We'll do a quick review, talk about what link development is and is not. We'll go over digital content assets and how other sites link to not only your website in terms of the homepage, but also your actual digital content assets. After we talk about link development, we'll talk about social media, and I'll give you some tips and guidelines for that. I have some really good examples to show you, and of course I'm giving out a shout to my favorite librarian from Berwyn. And we know we like Berwyn because we like the library, #1, and we like Svengoolie, #2. And then we will have time for questions and answers. So what do I want you to remember coming into here? As always, SEO is optimizing for people, and when we're talking about link development, what you're going to do is outreach to a human being. And during link development, it is all about humans connecting with other humans. And we will go through some more details later on. SEO is certainly part of a user experience because people find things via browsing, searching, and asking. And social media is one of the big places where people ask about information about topics they're interested in. Last webinar, we talked about the 3 main searcher goals. Asked you to remember go, know, and do. People use a search engine to go to a specific website or web page. They want to learn more information, and this is the most common type of search on desktop as well as mobile, and they want to do things such as sign up to something or download. Again, we're talking about link development and social signals, and we consider this off-the-page criteria because nobody has control over how other websites link to your website. We can make suggestions. When we do link outreach, we can have really well-architected library websites, and if we have our labels in the right places, it is more likely that people will link to your website and web pages in the way you want them to. So, what is link development? Well, in search engine optimization, people tend to talk about popularity or authority. So the general phrase is, what is popularity? It's basically the number and quality of links pointing to your website. And quantity is not as important as quality. I remember I worked on this giant, enormous healthcare website, and to outdo the current most popular website, it only took 25 links. And the site had over 1 million links to it. What we had were high quality links, so it only took 25. So quality trumps quantity. The bottom 3 bullets that you see, number of times people click on links to your site, how long people visit your site, this is what's referred to as click-through popularity. And click-through popularity is measured on search engines if you are logged in. So think of link popularity mostly as number and quality of links, and think of click popularity as something that Google and other search engines measure if you're logged in. There are a lot of things that affect link development, but the #1 thing that affects it is having substantial and unique content, and that means having really good digital content assets. And if you label your digital content assets well, how other sites link to them is going to be reflected in that. And I'm going to show you some examples of these. Search engines do look at links as a ranking factor. In Google, it's one of the biggest ranking factors. Right now, though, social signals, such as links from Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and other places, they're signals. They're not a ranking factor, but search engines certainly look at them to see if the signals correspond with link development. And of course, website usability is a huge factor, because let's say two websites have almost the same information. The one that the digital content asset that people will link to is probably going to be the one that's easiest to use, easiest to read, and all those other things. But just know that your site needs to have digital content assets, and they need to be labeled well. The other way I think of link development is validation. Is people want to validate that you have a good link resource, and technology is also trying to validate that your site has a good resource. And library sites naturally have good link development without you guys having to do anything, which is fantastic. So if we can harness what you have and make it better, then we could really make an impact on the web and curate it far better than it's curated right now. So the link development process can seem a little daunting. In fact, there are people whose only career choice is link development. But most search engine optimizers do have link development education and training and all that good stuff. The first part of a link development process is to analyze your own site. What kind of content assets do you have? How is the link development to other library websites? Are there places where your site can acquire high quality links that other library sites have? The strategy person is usually the person who drives everything for this, is the one who looks at your digital content assets and goes, okay, do we need more? Do we need less? Do we need to create a publishing calendar? How are we archiving our content from the events section? The link prospector, and we can just go on to this because these are what they do. The link prospector is the one who finds people who might be interested in your content assets. And the link prospector might have a qualifier person who will say yay or nay to the items that he or she finds. The content designer and curator would create and maintain digital content assets, and there's usually a dedicated person who actually reaches out to other websites and other human beings to see if there will be an opportunity for a link. Now, in my opinion, the two best link developers are Eric Ward and Garrett French, and they wrote a book. They asked me to contribute a chapter to the book. I wasn't able to, but regardless, this is a fantastic book. I highly recommend that you get it, and I have included links to some really great resources they have in this webinar. So I've been talking about digital content assets this whole time, so let's take a look at what they are. We create them for our target audience, primarily. We also create them for people who want to give out links and site resources. This could be educators and other librarians. We create them because people need help. One of the things I'm very adamant about is that librarians need to teach students on all levels, grade school through university, how to search your catalog and provide them with tips and guidelines. They can be in the form of a PDF, they can be in the form of a video, they can be in the form of a slideshow, and this will help students become better searchers and use your library more often. We place them in our website in a place, we might just call it links and resources. Another library might call them helpful links. So we make sure they're not orphaned, we make sure they're not siloed, and we place them on the website based on the publication calendar. So a link-worthy asset isn't always an article or a blog post. It's always something of value to another human being. This is a list of different types of digital content assets. I don't want this list to intimidate you because a library site certainly wouldn't have all these types of links. Like you might not have coupons, but you might have guides. I think library sites should have guides, FAQs or Q&As, a reference section to help people understand terminology in a layperson's language. I think slideshows and presentations are all good things that you could put on a library website. Now the content assets are important because it's part of the browse, search, ask. So not only will it help people find your library website via a web search engine, but it will also help people who are browsing, clicking from one thing link to another, also building traffic that way. You can increase conversions to your events, you can establish trust and credibility, and remember how I said that usability is a very big part of link development. Well, having content assets improves the usability and user experience on your website. So it's important to know who you are writing for, what they want, and what are the tasks that each group wants to complete. What does a parent want to do on a public library site? If you're a librarian for a law library, what does a law student want? If you are in a life sciences library, what do life science students want? What do medical students want versus what do undergraduates want? So it's understanding your audience is at the core of link development. So what do we want to do? We want to find link-worthy content assets on your own site. So we call this a content asset inventory. What content on your site has earned links? Which target audience member have you reached? And if you don't have this content, do other libraries have that content? And what have other people found value? Is there a way that you can also provide value on your own website? So what I like to do is use a tool called Majestic. And I'm going to show you this very shortly because this is how we search engine optimizers tend to look for what content has value. But I wanted to show you some examples from actual library sites. So this is for my alma mater, University of Illinois, and look what they've done. They've created helpful library resources based on what field of study people are on. They have a style guide and a citation guide, which I think all library sites should have. Ask a librarian, showing them the subject guides, showing them how to borrow and renew. And here's a more detailed one based on what they have. Also, Library of Congress, I think we've all talked about frequently asked questions and how to have them. And one of the things that the Library of Congress did particularly well is they include embedded text links or inline text links that guides people to the right place. So even your FAQs on your website could guide people to some of your helpful content. So what we use for this type of thing is Majestic. So I'm going to go to Majestic right now. And I am already logged in. But let's take a look at lincolnlibrary.org. Maybe that's the wrong link. Let's try Lincoln Library. Library. Sorry about this, guys. What I'm going to go is my account, and then I'm going to look at my reports. And I have lots of reports. And here is Lincoln Library. Oh, it's .info. Sorry about that. And we can see lincolnlibrary.info has 3,300, almost 3,400 backlinks. And that's really, really good. And so if I just do lincolnlibrary.info back into Majestic, we can see that here are the external backlinks. Here are education referring backlinks. Here are education referring domains. How many URLs have been indexed. And we can find out all kinds of things. We can find out who's linking to them. So we have a list of referring domains. So we have a list. So we have museum websites. We have Illinois Times. So we have public relations websites. We can look at details of their backlinks, what category they're in. So Springfield, Illinois links to it, or organizations link to it. And these are really, really good resources to have. And that's why I wanted to show this. So you can use Majestic to find libraries' link-worthy content assets. Are there any audiences or topics you've missed? What topics have learned the most links on other library websites? Also, you can find bad links. Ironically, there are many bad links, such as this one, public records and obituaries, and then there's just a list. This is really horrible. And then here's another one. And you can tell that this is a real spammy website because it links to best biz sites, Linkivity. So this is a link farm. Now you don't have control over the sites that link to you, but you do have control over the sites you link to. So you're not going to be penalized by any search engine by any of these, but you will be penalized by a search engine if you link to a site that is spammy. So you could see these things on a link report. And then what we like to do is review the site's content, not only your content, but a competitor's or a colleague's content, and get your own ideas. Now, this brings me to one of the 3 offers I have for those of you that have been patient and have attended these webinars. If you would like a Majestic analysis of your website, I will do it for free. So just email me. My email's at the end of all of these presentations. Let me know that you're a Rails attendee, and I will be more than happy to generate one of these reports for you. Okay? So what we want to look at is how other sites are linking to you and the quality of links to your website. Now, like I said, the Lincoln Library did a really good job, and they probably did a good job without realizing it. That's a lot of links to their site. And what we're looking for are government websites, education websites, and other library websites, because the quality of these websites tends to be high. These domains tend not to have a lot of search engine spam on them, and they tend to be very good hubs and authorities of high-quality content. That's why we target them. So we go into Majestic, so here's the Lincoln Library. We see again they have 16 education backlinks and education referring domains, and this is really good. So maybe it's possible that your library website could be in some of the places that the Lincoln Library is. But here is the Library of Congress. They have over 17 million links, and look at all of the links from government and education websites going back to them. I'm not saying that you have to have something like the Library of Congress, but it couldn't hurt to see where are these links coming from. So the targets we're going after are people who have links in online education resources, so teachers and other librarians, patrons, both current and new, and I will say this about moms. Moms talk to each other. Parents talk to each other. There are a lot of mom blogs out there. Don't be afraid to reach out to mom blogs if your library has an outstanding resource for kids. So don't rule them out just because they're not an education type of website. And then also people who are topic experts. Maybe somebody's an expert on the Civil War. Maybe somebody's an expert on Japanese literature. You could talk to these topic experts and get a really good set of resources on your library website. So content for linkers, people who are hobbyists. I do know a lot of Civil War buffs. Educators, organizational curators, whether they be a business or a nonprofit organization. And there are people like me who love to link out to people in need. Think about domestic violence shelters. Domestic violence shelters would do great if they would only link to each other. So they would have a really high quality group of links that Google would value, and the people that need these domestic violence shelters would value. Content for patrons. Best place of information for that. What are the most frequently asked questions your libraries receive? What do you wish that more people would know that you came up with in your brainstorming section? What are areas that people are missing? And how can you make this better? If you have the time or the budget, do a survey. It can be online or offline. And again, looking at other libraries' patron-facing content. Are there ways that you can improve on that? So one of the places that I look for topic experts is I actually do a search engine query. So let's say I go to Google. So I'm on Google, and I want to know, how do I cite a website? Here we go. I already did this query. And MLA shows you how to cite a website. APA, citation guide. These are things that you can see how other websites did this. You can also look at BuzzSumo. There are other social media software you can use. Right now, BuzzSumo is free. It's something that we search engine optimizers use a lot. And you can see the type of things that do well in social media. Now, one of the things that I've provided for you as a separate handout is this link attribute checklist. This is a checklist that I actually use, and I have one that's far more detailed for more competitive keyword terms, but this is usually good enough for most everything I do. And I have to have the checklist in yes at least 7 out of the 10 times, or I will not reach out for a link. Relevancy. Is the page you're targeting focused on the keywords? Accessibility. Does a search engine have access to it? Because the link is not going to count if a search engine doesn't have easy access to it. How long is the link going to stay into place? This is really important if you're going to target newspapers online, because you're going to have to look at how newspapers archive their links. Maybe they archive them well, maybe they don't archive them well at all. And this is something that you would look at when you're looking at newspaper sites. How many links on the page are already there? I usually stop at 20. If there's more than 20 links per page, I am not going to go for it, but every industry is different. 20 is one of my benchmarks. I want to know if the website's been in existence for a long time. That is really important. And I included that second question, is it registered for more than 5 years? That's actually an SEO myth. Just because a domain's been registered over 5 years doesn't mean that it's a high quality website. All we're looking for stability is that it's a high quality website. How long does it take the link to be active? Some links will be active immediately, some links might take a little more time. Once the link is posted, can you manipulate it so that you have more keywords in the link? And how easy or difficult is it to modify your listing? Usually a link with direct traffic will be the most beneficial. If you have to be a member of something, that's a big deal, and we want to make sure the membership directory is just publicly accessible. If it's privately accessible and a search engine can't reach it, link's not going to count. And there are sometimes submission fees, like bestoftheweb.com, but it's a one-time submission fee, and that's okay. Now, when I talk about flexibility, can you manipulate your link so that your site is more relevant? What I want to do is show you some actual emails that I've received. And what this is a link request. A human being, not an auto-generated email, has asked me to add a link to my stock photography page, and the person has provided a description, and the person has provided a link, a phone number, and I can actually email this person if I want to, or talk to this person on the phone, and this would be a great way of reaching out to somebody. I would be very hesitant to use one with an exclamation point in it, but I'm assuming this person, it might be new at link development, so that's okay. And this person has proved to me that she has read my website and knows I have a stock photography section. So that is great. So I am very likely to grant this link. Here's a link from another person who has an updated link and has asked me to put in the new link. Now, this person could also ask, how could I modify the link listing so it could have more keywords in it? And this leads me to my second offer. For those of you who have never done any kind of link outreach, I am more than happy to share this and other link request templates that you can customize for your library. Again, just email me and say you were an attendee for Rails, and I am more than happy to share this with you. Okay, back to link attributes. Here are some places that I recommend that you read. This one gives you a starting point for link building. These are link building articles from Eric Ward and Garrett French. And they're really great guys, and you should know that Eric Ward and I are both library science students and experts, and so that's one of the reasons Eric Ward's a great link builder, and that leads us to our first poll question. Go ahead, take it away, Joe.
All right, everybody, this is the first of two for audience participation, so you should have a question on your screen, and if anybody is just listening in over the phone, I will read it. Does your library regularly create, update, and maintain digital content assets for patrons? Yes, on an ongoing basis. Yes, but our library should make more of these content assets available on the website. Or no, we don't have content assets on our website. And we'll give you all just about 10 more seconds to put in your response, and then I will put the results up on the screen. All right, looking like the middle option is the winner.
I'm not surprised, because when I looked at a lot of the Illinois library sites, I did see content assets, and I think that's fantastic, because remember, I'm in academia as well as the corporate world, and I deal with so many corporate websites that don't have content assets. So the fact that librarians have content assets and library sites is fantastic. So good for you guys. So I hope that list, that 3-column checklist, gives you ideas of content assets that you can put on your website. And the idea behind link development as its standalone industry and link development as a part of SEO is an ongoing process. We don't just do link outreach and stop, do link outreach and stop. It is an ongoing thing that we're checking social media, we're checking other websites, we're checking out other library websites to see what they're doing. And link outreach usually takes 3 requests. So you might do 1 request. 2 weeks later, you might do another request. Sometimes it's via email, sometimes it's via a form. And then if you don't get an answer, you move on to the next link request. Link building has always been just about building relationships with humans. And if you build good relationships with humans, you'll probably get a really good turnaround for link development. So how do other sites link to your website? This is very important because we want ideally to have people match as closely as possible the labeling system that you have set up on your own website. So this is an example from the Lincoln Library, and this is what's called anchor text. It could be a blue underlined text link or it could be a blue link, but the point is you can click on it. What search engines are looking for is the text in anchor text and text that is next to it. And what's really nice about this description, how to get, I would say, library cards, branches, database of collection holdings, reference, events, their most important keywords are in here. And one of the things I like to do as an example, if I'm actually doing training, is I will physically hand trainees an index card, one of those small 3x5 index cards, and I'll put a web page on the screen, and I'll ask people to write down, how do you describe this website or web page in 25 words or less? Are those 25 people going to use the same words? Probably not, but there will be some overlap. So the better you can match those people who are writing the index cards, the better your site will do. And sometimes you have control over how people link to your site, and sometimes you don't. So here's an example for the Lincoln Library. Springfield Public Library, Lincoln Library. That's really good. And the reason for that is they've got the state in here, and they've got public, and it's just a good link. And it's a high quality organization, so that counts very much. Another link that's high quality is this one, but there are ways this could be better. So for example, where is the link on this example? The link is on this, http://. The better place for the link would actually be the Lincoln Library. Rachel Lindsay collection. Browse. Where is the better link? Actually on the Rachel Lindsay collection, not on the word browse. So you might not be able to change this on somebody else's website, but it can't hurt to ask them. Just like the person who asked me to update a link on my own website. And this might not be the best URL where this link is contained, but search engines can follow it. So yes, it would, on the checklist, I would count as a yes. So what are we after? What words do people use to link to your web pages? And so we can see here Lincoln Library, Sangamon, they use the actual URL, Springfield, and I want to see the word library here over and over and over. And that brings us back to our Majestic. So how do people link to us? Let's look at the anchor text. Now, this is something that the Lincoln Library, we don't want. We don't want the #1 way for people to link to your website to be empty anchor text. That's usually somebody linking to you by a graphic image, and as you can see here, that's what they're doing. It's okay to have people linking to your website with your library logo, but at least put text next to it that contains your most important keywords. Sangamon Valley Collection, Ask a Librarian Connection, library website, these are all really good things. And again, for those of you who just asked me for your library, I'm more than happy to generate a report from you from Majestic. Okay? So we really want people linking using our most important keywords. So this is, I just gave you a copy of this so you could see. The other thing we're looking at is making things linkable as well as shareable. So what makes a URL linkable? Remember in the previous presentations, I gave you a URL checklist. You want to use that URL checklist not only for your own website, but also for link targets. Make sure that it has a URL structure that Google can follow. You can copy and paste the URL into Google, and if it shows up in Google, it means that Google can follow it. So first and foremost, you have unique and valuable content, URL structure, good title heading, and if you have a subject tagline, that can be helpful too, because a lot of times people will copy and paste the headline and the subject tagline as the description and the link to the page, and make sure you have the right format. So if you're using an infographic, make sure your infographic's in the ping format. If it's a video, make sure it's a video format that Google can follow. The next thing is what makes the URL shareable. Shareable means that you're targeting the most appropriate social media. What type of social media does your target audience use? Do they use Twitter? Do they use Facebook? Do they use Instagram? What do they use? And once you determine what social media target audience uses, that's the one you focus on. And one of the biggest mistakes libraries make is they put the share icons in the wrong place. Now I'm going to show you an example. I was actually at Rockford Public Library yesterday and love it, love it, love it. I love libraries. But one of the biggest problems with their website is if I wanted to share how to get a library card on social media, look at where it's at. It's way down at the bottom of the page. And some of these are so small. Can you imagine looking at this on a mobile device? So putting the social media icons at the bottom is fine, but at least put them in a place where it helps people complete their task, which is sharing. Berwyn, I'm giving a shout out to Berwyn because they did so much better. They do have the social media links in the footer. What I think is fantastic is the size of them. They are very much the size for a standard finger, which is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, and they're not difficult to understand. But what would really make it more helpful is if I want to share the summer reading program, there's a lot of white space here. You could also put these social media icons nearer to the top of the page. So Gail Borden Library did that, so here are their social media icons, but not everybody knows that this is Flickr. YouTube is pretty recognizable, Facebook is pretty recognizable. It would be more effective if it were here. So if you wanted to share this, I know it's easier to program it to put it over here, but putting it over here would make this far easier. I would also encourage you to do something more like this. Share on Twitter, share on Facebook, and make it easier for people to accomplish their task, but also putting it at the bottom of the content. So we're looking at the content area of a web page. So we're looking here. Book Club sits at the top of the content area, and down here is the bottom of the content area. Put the social media at the top and put it at the bottom. You could even use this as a text link. And put these in the order of importance of your target audience. So if your main target audience uses Twitter first, put Twitter first. If they use Facebook first, put Facebook. But absolutely do it at the top as well as the bottom of the page, and it's okay to repeat them in your fact footer. The other thing is a byline. This is what I refer to as a subject tagline, and we can go into sites like Google, and a lot of times they'll have, this is the H1 heading, and right underneath it they'll have a byline. What BuzzSumo found was that articles with a byline get shared more heavily than articles without. So for those of you that have a library website, you might want to have an area to add a subject tagline for your helpful links and your content assets. So make sure your web designer does that. So here's articles about URL structure and outreaching that I hope you find helpful. And that leads us to our second question. Does your library regularly do link prospecting and development?
Okay, one more question for all of you that is coming your way now. Again, for anybody on the phone, does your library regularly do link prospecting, monitoring, and outreach? Yes, on an ongoing basis. Yes, but our library can do a better job at this, or no, we do not. So another 20 seconds for those of you to respond, and then I'll push out the results. Okay, so it looks like 80% of you confess that no, you do not, and another 20, yes, but could do a better job.
Oh no, that's not good. Link development is an ongoing process, and the idea is to get the best links. It's not to get as many as possible. So I highly encourage those of you who are doing search engine optimization or doing PR, have some kind of program where you're regularly prospecting for links. And as I said, one of the things I'm offering to everybody who's attending is I'm more than happy to do a majestic analysis so you can get started on this. And I also have another offer, and this would be my third offer, is I do believe that library websites need guides. And a lot of times these guides will be printable, and they might be in the form of a PDF. So for those of you that want it, I have in my first book written a section on how to optimize PDFs, and I have updated it to 2016. So if you want a copy of that, just ask me, and I am more than happy to share the copy of how to optimize PDFs with attendees. So now we move on to social media optimization. We have our digital content assets. They're optimized, they're accessible, they're what your patrons want, they're what your patrons' parents want, they're what other librarians and students want. How do we promote this not only via just regular link outreach, how do we promote via social media? So social media optimization is a process of getting traffic through social media sites, and the idea is to get more followers. But you don't have to get a lot of followers. You just have to get followers that are influential. You know, you don't want followers to be Ivana from Russia who wants a new boyfriend. You can reject that person as a follower, but a parent would be a good source. A professor, a teacher would be really good as part of your audience. And what's great about social media optimization is that its byproduct is getting the link that you so desire to your website. So again, the thing I want to remind you is that for search engine optimization, social media helps by being a byproduct. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to rank. So keep that in mind. But social media is a good way to reach the target audience that you want. And when you get the long-term SEO effect, that's when you know you've got it right. So just so you know, in Majestic, you can see this link profile. Again, more than happy to share that with you. And you have your social mentions based on your target audience preferred social media. And remember how I said link development is validation? It's exactly what it is. You're validating that the content on your site is good, and you're validating your labeling system. So what is the first thing you should do? Social media has a definite way of getting the best results. First is to protect your brand. Go into social media and protect your name, protect your library's name, protect the hyphenated version of your library's name, because you don't want brand jacking. And sometimes brand jacking is purposeful. In the corporate arena, it certainly is. And sometimes brand jacking is perfectly innocent, usually by fans or by employees. The reason to do this purely is to protect your brand. So even though your target audience might not use that social media, like in SlideShare, for example, at least you know that you have your library protected. The second thing is to set what your social media objectives are. Is your objective to gain the most followers? Is the objective to get more people to sign up for your events? Is your goal just to get more publicity? If you want people to be engaged, how are you measuring engagement? So set these objectives for each type of social media. SlideShare is very different from Flickr, which is different from Twitter, which is different from Facebook. A lot of times I tell libraries and nonprofits to put yourself in LinkedIn. Even though a lot of people don't use LinkedIn for library purposes, it still counts as a high quality place where your brand should be. I know it seems strange to say competitive analysis, but a lot of times your competitors or your associates or colleagues from other libraries might give you some information that you might not have. Look at libraries from other states. What social media outlets do they use? What content assets do they have on their website that people are responding to? How are people responding? Are they liking? Are they retweeting? Are they starting conversations with you? And the idea behind this is to winnow down the type of social media your site needs. Your social media might not be Flickr, but for a site that has maps, a site that has photo items, if your site is a museum, then you might want Flickr, Instagram, and Pinterest. But the idea is to winnow it down. And you can do this by figuring out what types of people tend to interact in your social media. Some people are not active. Some people are observers. Some people will share things. Some people will actually comment. Some people, the people like this, the curators and producers, tend not to contribute, but they will produce links that your site could get. So they could actually link targets. Both of these, so this one is just the updated version, is from Charlene Lee's book called Groundswell, and it's a very, very good book, so I highly, highly recommend it. And like I said, spectators tend to be the most common type of social media interaction. You can do research on social media sites. Like I said, this is just an example. And then once you have this, only focus on 1 to 3 social media outlets to start, because you don't want to engage in all the social media action without getting a return on your time. You might get a better return on your time doing link development, and social media can play a supporting role, or it could be the other way around. Social media could give you a lot of great feedback, more enrollment, more visibility, and you might just have some small byproducts from link development. But only focus on the ones that are most important. At first you're going to cast a wide net, but then you're going to winnow it down to the ones that are most important. And don't do something just because your competitors do it. Focus on your patrons. So if it's a good idea and you've tried it and it doesn't work, throw it away, don't focus on it. Now here's something that a lot of people don't do but should do, and that's creating a social media publication calendar. And what this is a half-life. And this tells you about how long the effects of a social media item might last. So on Twitter, 2.8 hours, Facebook, and YouTube. Social media outreach gets better results when you do it more than once. So the first, let's say you do an article on how to do something. The first mention might be the official post from the PR people or the people in charge of marketing your library website. The second mention might come from the person who wrote the content asset. And the third post might have a graphic image. And I'm giving you an example from the first image, for the first item. So first one contains important keywords. The second one, after you read what the response is to the first one, would be something like this: tips and resources. And then you could add more in the comments if you're using the blog. And the third one might have a graphic image that people could respond to, or you'd have a graphic image in the first one. The point is to have 3 mentions. First, from the official library posting, and wait the half-life. So when, let's say you're in Facebook, you'd wait 3 hours. Then you do the second mention. How did people respond to that first mention? Did something get liked because of a particular way of phrasing things? So you could, if you have a subject tagline or a byline, if you have a sentence that has keywords but have slightly different ones, put that in the second mention. And then the third mention, make sure there's something extra. So look at the half-life and do so accordingly. So the next thing is measure and monitor the progress. Your website analytics, like Google Analytics, can tell you, are people responding to your social media? Look at your link development analytics, such as Majestic. I like to use Hootsuite for my social media. And again, this is an ongoing process because you'd be surprised at what people respond to. Especially during, if you're a school library or public library, during exam times or when our reports due, you'll find that the timing of this will help you set up your social media calendar. So what do I want you to remember about link development? Quality trumps quantity. Always. You might only lead 25 really good links and your site can perform better than the Library of Congress. Absolutely true. Remember that link development is a ranking factor. Social media is not currently for search engines. So if you're having a problem with search engine visibility, increase your site's link development. And you do that by having user-friendly digital content assets. Make sure each asset has clear labels, that's accessible via contextual navigation and also included in your sitemap or site index. Make sure you're prospecting and reaching out to people who are in your target audience, and use social sharing as a supplement. And again, you start out with a wide fishing net and then you weed down. And remember that it's iterative. And what I did for the overall summary, what to remember about keywords and labels, library websites, architecture and navigation, searcher goals, and link development. So this is what I want you to know about SEO. I know it's a lot, but once you get in the habit of doing all this, it becomes a habit, and then this ongoing process seems less and less challenging. All right, so we have time for questions.
Okay, thank you, Shari. So no questions have rolled in yet, but I will give you all a minute or two if you have questions, I mean, really from this session, or if there was something on your mind from any of the previous sessions. Now would be the time to do it. I will again, as you perhaps ponder any questions you might have, again, watch your inbox. Later today or tomorrow you'll get a survey from us, and your responses would be appreciated. And I will thank Shari for the kind of offers that she is extending to those of you who have participated in this series of webinars. So I hope that many of you will take her up on those offers. But it is a couple minutes short of 2:30, and it looks like, unless I get a question rolling in right now, we are maybe going to wrap up. So with that, Shari, I want to thank you so much for this series of webinars. You've packed a lot of content into these 5 sessions, a lot of good stuff, and I'm hoping that those who have participated will be able to take this stuff back and start working on their websites. Yeah, any final thoughts, anybody? Going once, going twice? I guess not. So thank you all for your participation. Thank you, Shari, and everybody have a good and hopefully dry day.
Thank you.
All right, take care.